Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and this is the third video on my critique of New York City and the takeover by the Marxists and how it parlays with Animal Farm by Orwell. I talked about how Mondami is Napoleon the pig, how he wants to run the show, get special benefits for himself and his friends, while the rest of the animals on the farm suffer. At the beginning, he says that we're all equal, but eventually some are more equal than others. The second video dealt with Letitia James and how she's Squealer the pig. Why? Because Squealer the pig helps Napoleon take over the farm and rewrites the commandments where special privileges are given to the ones in power. Sound familiar? Like communism, like Marxism, like socialism? Now, this video is going to be talking about Eric Adams and how he's Snowball the pig in Animal Farm. But before we do, please help support the work that I do by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. Follow me on all the different channels that I have on X and GETTR, Substack, Patreon, YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Share the links and ask your social media to follow me. I greatly appreciate it. All these videos are for free that I do. If you pay attention, I have some unique things to say. So with that, I'd like to just plug some products before we begin. Cottrell, very important to help build muscle and maintain muscle. This is extremely important if you're an athlete and if you're 40 years of age or older, where it's harder to build muscle. This will help with the gene expression to build muscle. Take C60. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and avocado oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. C60 is a very potent antioxidant, 1,000 times more potent than vitamin C molecule. Take a teaspoon a day every day. It's going to help the health of your cells, bring down stress, soak up free radicals, help the mitochondrial health, build up energy levels, and therefore the cells and the tissues will perform better. Your immune system will perform better. Your endocrine system will perform better. Your neurons, and you'll reduce the chances of building up further plaque in your cardiovascular system by soaking up free radicals. Magnesium and zinc, super important to boost up that immune system and help with brain function. Lignans boosts up immune system and helps your endocrine system, brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. And turmeric brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals, super important for that immune system and also your cardiovascular system. And lastly, zeolite. Detoxifying your body regularly is super important. This will bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take it every day. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue and drink it with filtered water, and do this daily. All right, with that said, let's go to Animal Farm. What's going on in New York post-election of Mondami? Mondami will end up being sworn in at the beginning of the year of 2026. And we're going to start seeing how New York City, capitalistic city, will end up being a commune, a capitalist. They're going to be pushing out capitalism. They're going to be creating this communistic commune that will lead to less viability for average citizens, because the cost of living will go up. Now, Eric Adams, like I said, is Snowball. Snowball, his character within Animal Farm is helping Napoleon at the very, very beginning to overthrow the capitalists. And he has this idea of creating a windmill to make the farm more efficient after they have thrown out the humans, the capitalists. Napoleon doesn't like the idea, but eventually he kicks out Snowball, banishes him, chases him out, and takes his idea and builds the windmill. But when they build the windmill, the cost to run and build the windmill has now created undue pressure on the other animals on the farm. So Napoleon took the idea of Snowball, but now there is some animosity going on the farm because of the windmill. The cost of the windmill and the burden of that cost on the other animals. Now, Eric Adams. Now, this is not a perfect match of Eric Adams to Snowball, but you'll get the point. Eric Adams has this idea of trying to make the city more affordable, New York City more affordable. He's the current mayor. Try to bring down crime, try to reduce the homeless, increase units that are more affordable for low-income housing. He has done that. He has reduced crime, but it's still too high. He's reduced the homeless on the streets, but you still see them. There's too many of them. And he has put more units within his administration than I believe any modern day mayor has ever done for low-income housing, ever. All right. So, and I believe those are in the Bronx, maybe also in Queens, I'm not sure. But he has this idea, but he eventually got kicked out. He got kicked out by the social Democrats, or democratic socialists, I should say. And now they're taking his idea of adding more units. So the low-income housing units that he provided under his administration, that he actually provided, not just a plan, but he provided, is now being taken and subsumed by the democratic socialists, Mondami, and furthering it into rent control, higher taxes for corporate, higher taxes for higher income citizens in New York City. And he's going to use all those taxes to implement even further freebies, free childcare, free buses and MTA and all these freebies. But it's going to cost, and eventually the quality is going to go down. This is very similar to what Napoleon the Pig did to Snowball. Snowball had these ideas, the windmill, to try to make the farm more efficient, more equitable, all right? Was somewhat successful with bringing on more units for low-income housing. And now you have Napoleon kicking out Adams, Mondami kicking out Adams, just like Napoleon kicked out Snowball, and is taking credit for the windmill. It's taking credit for this massive social program, free childcare, freezing the rent for low income, for subsidized housing. It's not everybody. 2 million units, 2 million people. Is it 2 million units or 2 million people? I'm not sure. I think it's 2 million units. 2 million units. Raising taxes, free buses. It's all going to cost. Just like how the windmill cost the other animals to run and to build, to finance. Mondami he's pushing out capitalism just like how Napoleon the pig pushed out the humans, the capitalists, trying to run socialism. And at first it starts to work. So that first 12 months or so, it's going to seem not so bad. But then all of a sudden, the real costs come in, the inefficiency of the design of central planning, and then all of a sudden, the farm starts to not work as well. There's some animosity within the animals. Napoleon has to issue dogs to frighten these animals, just like how Mondami is going to issue a Gestapo. We'll get to that in a different video. But this is Snowball's video. Eric Adams had an idea, implemented that idea. And now Mondami is going to take Eric Adams' idea of low-income housing, additional units available, put it on steroids, and add other social programs that the city can't afford. It's really important to pay attention that New York City is Animal Farm. And the story of Animal Farm talks about how you kick out capitalism, even if you don't like the tyrannical aspects of capitalism, if you're on the side of not benefiting, and you're replacing it with another tyrannical regime called communism. That's Orwell's thesis of Animal Farm. Now, there are people in New York City that are like sheep, but some of them are horses, some of them are goats, just like on Animal Farm. But the thing is that Mondami's policies will not be productive in the long term, and it will be cost prohibitive in the long term. Now, the worry that I have is that he'll be successful for the first 10 or 12 months, which will carry the Democratic Party up to the midterm elections of November of 2026. And so you're going to get this false positive aspect of what's happening in New York. And then after the midterm elections, then the real bill comes in of what these social programs are doing to the cost of living in New York City. They kicked out Snowball. Napoleon kicked out Snowball because Snowball was against his policies. Plus, Napoleon wanted the notoriety. He wanted to be the one ruling the farm. Mondani has kicked out Adams. He's going to take the credit of low-income housing units being put on online to allow people to benefit from that low-income unit. And then Mondani is trying to rise up to be, with that smiley face, trying to convince people he's really just a typical New York citizen that's just all equal. And then eventually he starts getting hubris. The animals start to get upset because it's costing more. The buses are dirty, or they have homeless people on it, or it's not safe, or the maintenance is terrible, because this costs, right? And then eventually what happens is that he has to issue dogs to keep the animals in fear, because he doesn't want to lose power. Didn't we see these sorts of things happening with the Democratic Party during COVID, the crisis, where they said, you stay at home, you're locked down, but they end up partying because they thought they were above people. They thought that everyone's equal, but some animals are more equal than others. There's a lot of similarities to what's going on with New York City and Animal Farm. Now, it's not a perfect match. The Letitia James with Squealer match is pretty close. Mondani to Napoleon the Pig, perfect match. Eric Adams to Squealer, it's a good match, but it's not perfect. But the thing is that you get the idea. Someone that had an idea to try to fix the city and was on the way of slowly doing it was somewhat corrupt and is pushed out by the other political leaders, such as Mondani in the Democratic Party. And now they have put Mondani on a pedestal to rule in New York City, just like Napoleon did in Animal Farm. So there's a lot of similarities here. But what do we take out of this? What can we learn from this? What's the end game here? Eventually, what happens is that the animals are upset. And they start to realize that from their perspective, they pushed out capitalism because they thought that it was tyrannical. And then they started realizing that when they did that, they eventually ended up having another tyrannical regime ruling them. Now, this is a critique about socialism. And it's important to realize that there are virtues with capitalism. There are virtues of owning your own business. There are virtues called the bourgeoisie virtues. But when you're young and you can't find a job or you can't sustain yourself in an environment because the cost of living is too high, you tend to gravitate to people that will promise you things. And unfortunately, our educational system isn't telling you the differences between collectivism and individualism. Collectivism doesn't work. It's always more expensive. Now, some people say, well, maybe we need a little bit in the middle. Maybe we need a little bit of socialism, some social programs. Well, eventually it's a slippery slope and it becomes more and more. And it gets to the point where the country gets indebted or the city gets indebted and it's no longer viable. And maybe with a $38 trillion debt for the United States, we're getting close to that cliff for the sake of socialism. Socialism has never worked, ever. Especially way to the left of socialism. Communism is an abysmal failure. But New York has voted a mayor, Mondani, to we're going to see how it is. Well, the reason why Mondani is saying, well, let's just experiment, because he didn't learn his history. Because there's actually a combination of destroy capitalism. He said he doesn't like capitalism. Destroy capitalism and usher in a caliphate at the same time. It's like a two-pronged approach. Break what made New York good or great, and that was capitalism. And then put a wedge in productive citizens in New York and push them out. And then usher in a caliphate. This is what happened in Hamtramck in Michigan. This is what happened in Dearborn in Michigan. This is not theoretical anymore. Animal Farm is happening in New York City. Eric Adams is Snowball. Letitia James, Squealer, the pig. And Mondani, Napoleon the pig. And unfortunately, many of New Yorkers are just the sheep going bah, bah, bah. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. How's that any different saying Democrats good, orange man bad? We haven't learned as a society. That's just a novel giving a critique of socialism, giving a critique of communism, giving a critique that the people have some level of tyrannical rule no matter what system you're in. But you have a large part of the population that voted for him, Brooklynites, ones that are from Brooklyn, that are younger, the hipsters, that are having difficulties that are having difficulties living and affording life in general, but also are educated and they want to be a little bit hipster. A big part of that, a big part of his constituency comes from Brooklyn. And a lot of those individuals in their 20s and 30s, they're not getting educated like previous generations dealing with history. These these kids don't even understand that the grand experiment happened after World War II, all the way through the Cold War, and ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And that experiment was Western Europe was more successful economically than Eastern Europe. Why? Because Eastern Europe was under the Soviet Union and wasn't free. It was under communism. While Western Europe was under democracy and capitalism, peppered in with a little bit of socialistic programs that ended up failing and causing problems with their society, with too much debt. You know, look at what's happening with the UK and France right now, with the doom loop. And during this time period, people were saying, should we pay attention to Hayek? Maybe we should pay attention to Keynes. And so Keynesian economics was tested, which was more socialistic, and was put on steroids. That ended up being even more socialistic and ushered in political economics. And fast forward to 2025, it failed. It failed. But you have a lot of these hipsters from Brooklyn, they didn't learn their history. They didn't learn that this grand experiment has already happened. They didn't learn about economics. And that if you try to freeze the price of anything, you're affecting the supply and demand equilibrium. If you have too many social programs, guess what? You end up having to somehow pay for it. Either the society gets in more debt or you have to tax. And it gets to the point where the taxations are too high, the debt is too high to finance, and eventually you have to curtail the programs or eliminate them. Just like how Animal Farm states, is that there's corruption that takes place, there's the inefficiencies that take place on the farm that lead to a further uprising. So in parting, Eric Adams is Snowball the pig. He had a good idea, get more units available for low-income housing. That's somewhat of an analogy to the windmill. So if people have lower costs for living expense, they'll be able to be more vibrant and more economically viable in New York City. He's kicked out by the Democratic Party. And a communist comes in, Mamdani, Napoleon the pig, to take the credit and to usher in a new era of socialism in New York City. And who's helping him? Who's helping Napoleon the pig? Squealer the pig, Letitia James. Because she has values. Values. She doesn't tell you what those values are. Maybe the values are tax evasion. Maybe the values are lying on a mortgage application. Maybe her values are lie to the American public and do lawfare because you don't like Orange Man. Maybe that's what her values are. People need to pay attention to Animal Farm because what is happening in New York City is going to happen to the rest of the country. And if you're a conservative, if you believe in individualism, if you have an affinity to capitalism, you need to push back these socialists. You need to tell them through rhetoric that they're just wrong and that history is on your side, that their social programs failed. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do by getting the great products that I offer. I have very high quality supplements that will slow down the aging process and boost up your immune system and help with your other bodily functions, including your brain function. Ashwagandha root brings down cortisol levels and helps your blood glucose levels. This will help to improve your cardiovascular health and improve your immune system. And when you're improving your cardiovascular health, guess what? You're also creating a great microenvironment to help with your neurons. Taking a good probiotic is super important for absorbing your nutrients, improving your immune system, and also your brain function and skin health, and rev up your metabolism. So please go to my store and get the either powdered probiotic or the VeggieCap probiotic and take it every day, drink it with filtered water. Vitamin C and magnesium helps with your skin, boosts up your immune system, and helps with your brain function. You need a lot of magnesium. Guess what? You know why? Because post-crisis of 2020, you're 40 years of age. In 5 years, you're gonna know people within that cohort group. 30% of them are going to have early onset of dementia. You know why? 3 reasons. 3 reasons. Ischemic. 75% of the 30% will have ischemic issues, microclotting, microbleeding at the cerebral level, and eventually neural death. 24.9%, maybe 24.5%, are going to be amyloidosis, building up plaque because of misfolding of proteins, not being able to clear them. Very similar to Alzheimer's and other amyloidosis type diseases. And the third reason, 0.1 to maybe 0.5%, very small percentage, but it will happen, prion disease. But the big issue, the 75% of the 30%, it's ischemic. Omega-3, help with your cardiovascular health, bring down inflammation, and help to control your lipid profile. When you do that, you have less plaque formation. Vitamin B complex helps with your metabolism, boosts up your energy levels, and helps to protect your neurons. Multivitamin has the cofactors for proper enzymatic activity so your cells perform better. This is a foundational supplement to slowing down the aging process. And it's easy to digest. Take it every day. Good night formula helps to get into the cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep to consolidate memory, detoxify your central nervous system, and to be well rested. When you have proper sleep, you slow down the aging process. And you're improving your brain function. Digestive enzyme complex helps your pancreas. It breaks down proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Super important. It also has bromelain. And bromelain is really important, especially during the crisis that we just went through. And it has the proteolytic enzymes to break up glycoproteins. And And this is the reason why I said 5.5 years ago to take the digestive enzyme complex. Now you're hearing celebrity docs saying take bromelain. Don't trust celebrity docs. Olive leaf extract brings down inflammation and also helps your lipid profile. This is dual purpose, helps your immune system and your cardiovascular system. And clarity factor. Clarity factor will allow you to get rid of that brain fog so you're not a stupid liberal. Don't be like a Mandami. Don't be allowing Animal Farm to happen in your city. Hold the line. Capitalism is good, right? Capitalism works. Capitalism is right. Clarity factor. Get rid of that brain fog. It'll help to improve your memory, allow you to concentrate, and you take this regularly, you're going to improve that neuroplasticity where you're going to be thinking better and your memory will be quicker. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Clarity Factor and all these great supplements. These are supplements that I take every day. When you do this on a regular basis, based on your affordability, you're going to slow down the aging process. And the key is stacking. When you stack them the way I've been telling you to stack them on so many different videos, I say it on almost every video, you're going to maximize and get that synergistic effect. I've been doing this for a very long time, and it works. You just got to go to the store and buy it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, all caps, discount 5. You get $5 off any order. And get these supplements to improve your health. You're getting near the end of the year. It's time for New Year's resolution. Get healthy. And it's a holistic approach. It's about the proper supplementation, proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep, learning new things, talking to people, having a good mindset, some sort of spirituality or mindfulness. Super important to get into a parasympathetic mode and allow for your body to heal. And get these great supplements as gifts for family members or friends. I have a lot to offer. If you pay attention, you'll slow down the aging process and get healthy. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. And oh, by the way, stop Mom Donnie.